6,000 years ago, in the wealthiest city on Earth, you had this chariot builder and a musician sitting in the dirt, and they were entirely broke. They were asking the exact same question that, millions of people are asking today, which is, I work myself to the bone, so where's all my money going?
Yeah, it is like the ultimate human financial dilemma.
Right.
We look at the towering walls of ancient Babylon or, the skyscrapers of modern cities today, and we see all this immense wealth circulating, but somehow it just never seems to stick to our own hands.
Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we are taking a deep dive into a text that tackles that exact dilemma. It's called The Richest Man in Babylon by George S. Clason.
Such a classic.
It really is. It's this delightful set of parables written back in the 1920s, set in the ancient world. And our mission today is to decode these stories, to uncover the absolute, timeless, 6,000-year-old laws of wealth accumulation. We want to give you, the listener, a real shortcut to understanding the mechanics of money.
Because let's face it, personal finance today feels completely impenetrable.
Oh, absolutely. Like trying to read ancient Babylonian cuneiform. We've got algorithmic trading, endless investment vehicles, crypto.
Right, but this deep dive proves that the foundational rules of wealth are actually shockingly simple.
Yes. And that simplicity is vital. Babylon wasn't some mythical utopia, it was an incredibly harsh mercantile reality. Its citizens didn't have modern safety nets.
Exactly. They had to learn the absolute physics of acquiring, keeping, and multiplying capital. The tools we use today have obviously evolved, but the underlying psychology of how humans interact with money, that remains entirely unchanged.
Which means whether you are staring at an empty bank account, trying to figure out how to cover next month's rent, or you have a sudden surplus and want to invest it wisely, these universal laws apply directly to your life right now.
And we see that universal application immediately in the opening setup. You mentioned Bansir, the chariot builder, and Kabi, the musician.
Yeah, they are experiencing a very modern form of burnout.
Totally. Bansir is just staring at this half-finished chariot, sweating in the sun. And he realizes that half a lifetime of grueling, back-breaking labor has left him with a completely empty purse.
He doesn't even have 2 shekels to lend his best friend.
Nothing. And they start to question the whole system. They live in the richest city in the known world, yet they're sitting there banqueting on sour goat's milk.
Right. They finally realize that they've been working intensely hard, but they've never actually sought wealth. They just worked at their trades and passively hoped that the gods, or, the system, would eventually reward them.
And that passive hope is the trap. They assume wealth is something that happens to you, rather than something you actively engineer. So they go seek out their childhood friend, Arkad.
Who has engineered it perfectly.
Exactly. He is literally the richest man in Babylon, wealthy enough to advise the king. And when they ask him if he was just singled out by fickle fate, Arkad rejects the premise completely.
He actively warns against unearned gold, doesn't he?
He does. He points out that sudden, unearned wealth like winning a lottery usually brings ruin because the person hasn't developed the psychological framework to handle it. Arkad tells them that if they don't have money, it's simply because they either haven't learned mechanics of wealth or they are failing to observe them.
And to prove it, he shares his own origin story. He wasn't born into money. He was just a humble scribe, spending his days carving clay tablets. But he wanted wealth, so he struck a bold deal with this powerful moneylender named Algamish.
Yeah, Algamish needed a massive legal document carved overnight, the Ninth Law.
Right, so Arkad offered to work straight through the night, pushing himself to the absolute limit in exchange for the secret to wealth.
And Algamish delivers a secret that sounds almost, too simple to be profound. He says a part of all I earn is mine to keep, specifically saving at least 1/10 of everything you earn.
And initially, Arkad has the exact same reaction most people would have. He says, isn't everything I earn mine to keep?
It is the ultimate illusion of income. Algamish breaks it down for him. He says, you pay the garment maker, you pay the sandal maker, you pay the butcher. You are handing your earnings over to everyone else just to survive.
Wow, yeah.
If you spend everything you earn, you are functionally a slave working for your master's food and clothes.
Oh.
You have to pay yourself first.
Arkad actually illustrates this later with this incredibly sticky visual of an egg merchant. He tells his students to imagine a basket. Every morning, you put 10 eggs into that basket. But every evening, you only take 9 eggs out. Mathematically, the basket has to overflow eventually.
It's the physical law of accumulation in action.
But understanding the physics of it isn't enough, right?
Yeah.
You need the discipline and the wisdom to execute it. And Arkad actually failed his first attempt.
He really did. He successfully saved his 10% for an entire year. But then he gave all those savings to a brickmaker named Asmore.
A brickmaker.
Yeah, a brickmaker who was traveling to Phoenicia to buy rare jewels for him.
And the Phoenician saw this brickmaker coming a mile away and sold him bits of colored glass. All of Arkad's savings were wiped out in a day.
It highlights a critical flaw in human behavior. We often prioritize convenience and personal relationships over actual expertise.
Yeah.
Algamish berates Arkad for this. He's like, why on earth would you trust a brickmaker to appraise rare jewels?
Yeah, the rule is ironclad. If you want advice on sheep, go to a herdsman. If you want to know about jewels, go to a jeweler.
Exactly.
But wait, how can someone save 10% if they can barely afford to pay their daily bills? I mean, on behalf of the listener staring at their rent, groceries, and debt, where does that 10% physically come from?
Yeah, that is precisely what Arkad's students ask him when the king tasks him with teaching a class on wealth. And Arkad's response addresses a very harsh psychological truth about lifestyle inflation.
Wow, this is a big one.
He tells them that what we consider our necessary expenses will always naturally grow to equal our incomes, unless we actively protest to the contrary.
So we confuse what we actually need with what we merely desire.
Exactly. Human desires are like weeds in a field. They will grow wherever there is space for their roots. As your income goes up, you justify a nicer apartment, better food, more expensive clothes, convincing yourself these are newly necessary expenses.
Right.
To combat this, Arkad lays out a system often referred to as the 7 cures for a lean purse, which begins by attacking this exact psychological vulnerability.
So the first cure is saving that 10%, and the second cure is controlling the expenditures, which is basically the ancient concept of a budget.
Right, a budget.
And I love how the text frames this, because a budget usually feels like a straitjacket, right? Like financial starvation. One of Arkad's students actually stands up and complains that a budget makes him a slave, stripping away all the joy in life.
But Arkad flips the perspective. A budget isn't a restriction, it's desire optimization.
Yes. He uses this brilliant analogy of a pack-ass preparing for a long desert journey. If you're packing that animal, you don't load it down with heavy gold bars and luxury rugs. You pack hay, water, and essential supplies.
You pack what gets you there.
Exactly. You budget your carrying capacity for the things that guarantee you reach your destination. A financial budget is just you defending your highest long-term priorities against your casual, impulsive wishes.
What's fascinating here is how that discipline unlocks the third cure, which is make thy gold multiply. Once you have a surplus protected by your budget, you have to put it to work. This is the concept of compound interest.
The magic of compounding.
Exactly. Arkad tells the story of a farmer who took just 10 pieces of silver and invested it with a moneylender for his newborn son. The crucial detail here is the agreement to reinvest the rental, the interest, every 4 years.
And the math on that is wild. By the time that son was 50 years old, the initial 10 pieces of silver had grown to 167 pieces.
It's a perfect illustration of compounding. The initial silver isn't what makes him rich. The time horizon does the heavy lifting.
I mean, it requires this fundamental shift in how you view a currency.
Yeah.
The Babylonians described it as creating an army of golden slaves. Every coin you save isn't just a piece of metal, it is a worker. And the interest that coin earns is its child. And that child's interest is its grandchild. They all have to work together to build a continuous stream of income.
To bring that into the 21st century, it's like writing an automated software program. You save enough money to buy one little piece of code. That code runs 2147 in the background while you sleep, generating pennies.
Yeah, and eventually, those pennies buy a second piece of code. Soon, you have an entire server farm of bots working relentlessly to build passive income.
That is the perfect modern equivalent. But as that army of bots or golden slaves grows, you have to enact the remaining cures, which are all conceptually linked around the idea of security. The fourth cure is guarding your principal from loss.
Which goes back to the brickmaker story. Protect the principal and avoid risky romantic investments.
Because a total loss of principal sets your timeline back to zero, which naturally leads into the fifth and sixth cures, making your dwelling a profitable investment and ensuring a future income.
Because once you become risk-averse with your capital, you naturally want to secure your physical environment.
Right. Arkad strongly advocates for homeownership. From a psychological standpoint, it provides a safe environment for your family, but mathematically, it stabilizes your cost of living. You are no longer at the mercy of a landlord's rising rents.
Which frees up more of your income to invest.
Exactly. And simultaneously, you have to look ahead. You won't always have the physical energy to work, So you must provide in advance for your old age and protect your family against your potential absence.
And the final cure ties it all back to your own active output, increasing your ability to earn. Wealth building isn't just about shrinking your expenses, it's about expanding your value. You do this by studying, improving your craft, and maintaining your self-respect by paying debts promptly.
The overarching theme of these 7 cures is extreme intentionality. You are actively designing your financial ecosystem. But the text also acknowledges a major roadblock here.
Yeah, if the rules are this straightforward, save, budget, compound, protect, and improve your skills, why is it so rare to see people actually execute them?
Because human psychology gets in the way. People don't want a disciplined, decades-long system. They want a shortcut. They want to get lucky.
Which shifts the discussion from the mechanical rules of money to how we view luck. Arcad takes his students to the Temple of Learning, and they start debating how to attract the goddess of good luck. And the crowd immediately brings up the gaming tables and the horse races.
Surely luck is found there, right?
But Arcad dismantles that instantly. He explains the basic mechanics of a rigged game. The odds at a gaming table or a racetrack are mathematically calibrated to guarantee a profit for the gamekeeper.
The house always wins.
Always. We are drawn to these games because human nature constantly tries to force impossible earnings. It's much like the modern obsession with meme stocks or ultra-risky crypto bets.
But Arcad knows he doesn't know a single sustainably wealthy person who built their fortune that way. So they have to redefine what true luck actually is. And the consensus they reach is profound. True luck is defined as good luck following opportunity.
The tragedies of finance aren't usually about bad bets. They are about missed opportunities. Like the story of the young merchant.
Oh, this one is brutal.
He is approached by a syndicate of smart investors who are building water wheels to irrigate barren land. It is a highly vetted, low-risk project with massive upside. All he has to do is commit his 10% savings. But he hesitates.
And his hesitation is rooted in lifestyle inflation. He and his wife have been eyeing these expensive new robes imported from the East. He prioritizes a fleeting, depreciating luxury over a foundational compounding investment.
He misses the window to invest, the water wheels become incredibly profitable, and he spends the rest of his life regretting his choice of garments.
And it's not just about choosing luxury over investment. Sometimes it's the discomfort of acting with imperfect information. There is the story of the buyer of animals.
Right, the guy at the city gates.
Yeah, he arrives at the city gates late at night, and they are already locked. Outside the gates, he finds an old, desperate farmer with 900 sheep. The farmer needs to sell the flock immediately to rush back to his sick wife, so he offers an absurdly low price.
It is the deal of a lifetime.
It really is. The farmer even offers a compromise. He says, "Pay me 2/3 in the dark, and we will settle the rest in the daylight." But the buyer is stubborn. He wants perfect visibility. He refuses to transact until the sun comes up so he can easily count every single sheep.
And by the time the sun rises, the city gates open, rumors of a siege cause food prices to skyrocket, and 4 other merchants rush out and pay the farmer triple the price. The buyer missed out entirely.
This prompts a Syrian character in the crowd to stand up and identify the actual villain hiding in both of these stories. He loudly identifies it as the procrastinator.
Wow, yeah.
This changes the entire paradigm. Procrastination isn't just a quirky flaw in our time management. It is an active psychological enemy that sits inside our minds, waiting to whisper doubts, demand perfect conditions, and rob us of our profits.
So, what does this all mean? Are the sources basically saying that luck is just the act of being prepared, having that 10% ready, and taking swift, decisive action when a good deal appears, rather than waiting around for a magical windfall?
Exactly. If you let procrastination win, you let luck escape.
But acquiring the gold is a battle against procrastination. Keeping the gold and passing it on to the next generation without it being squandered is an entirely different war.
Wealth is notoriously difficult to maintain across generations. The traits required to build it are rarely inherited naturally.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Arcad didn't just write a check to his kid. When his son, Nomasir, comes of age, Arcad understands this generational problem perfectly.
He recognizes that handing unearned wealth to an untested youth is a recipe for disaster.
So he gives Nomasir 1 bag of gold and a clay tablet inscribed with the 5 laws of gold, and then he sends him away for 10 years to prove himself.
It is a brilliant ancient mechanism to ensure generational wealth isn't destroyed by youthful inexperience. He forces his son into a 10-year stress test.
And Nomasir immediately loses the gold.
Completely. He goes to Nineveh, and just ignores the wisdom on the tablet.
He falls victim to the exact psychological traps Arkad warned against.
Yes, the 5 laws on that tablet largely reiterate what Arkad taught his students. Save 10%, multiply it, seek expert advice. But the 4th and 5th laws are specifically designed to protect against youthful arrogance.
Which makes sense. Gold slips away from those who invest in unfamiliar businesses, and it outright flees those who try to force it to impossible earnings by following the alluring advice of tricksters.
Well, Monsieur violates both instantly. He trusts a caravan of con men and loses a fortune betting on a rigged horse race. Then he partners in a retail business with a spoiled, incompetent rich kid who has no idea how to buy inventory.
He loses everything. He is reduced to poverty, forced to sell his horses, sell his slave, and is left starving. It is only when he hits rock bottom that he finally reads the clay tablet.
He realizes that the rules aren't suggestions. They are financial gravity.
So he starts over. By following the law, saving 10%, seeking wise counsel, avoiding impossible earnings, he slowly rebuilds his wealth.
He takes a grueling job managing a crew of slaves, building the outer wall. He saves single coppers from his meager wages. But this time, he applies the wisdom. He pools his tiny savings with wise men to buy copper and tin from distant mines.
Right, to sell to the king for the city's bronze gates. He's providing a solution to a market need.
Exactly. And when the 10-year banishment is over, no Monsieur returns to Arkad.
And this part is great. He gives back 1 bag of gold for the original bag he lost, but then he drops 2 extra bags of gold on the table in exchange for the clay tablet, proving that wisdom is infinitely more valuable than raw cash.
It is the ultimate validation of the thesis. Wealth is not a static number in a bank account. It is a set of repeatable behaviors. Give a fool a fortune and it will inevitably evaporate. But with wisdom, gold can always be generated from nothing.
That perfectly summarizes the mission of our deep dive today. The blueprint to wealth truly hasn't changed in 6,000 years. You save 1/10 of what you earn, you seek out the advice of experts, you put your money to work, you act decisively when opportunity strikes, and you value wisdom over a quick buck.
The text leaves us with a beautiful metaphor for the listener. Wealth is exactly like a tree that grows from a tiny seed. The very first copper you save today is the seed from which your tree of wealth shall grow.
But before we go, I want to leave you with a final, slightly provocative thought to ponder, a dynamic that the parables hint at but don't explicitly resolve.
Oh my God.
Yeah, think about it. Clason's entire philosophy here relies on the individual rigidly controlling their desires, avoiding frivolous spending, and delaying gratification, like the merchant not buying those beautiful robes.
Right.
But think about the broader picture. Wouldn't the entire economy of Babylon, which relied heavily on artisans, weavers, and merchants selling those very goods, completely collapse if absolutely everyone perfectly optimized their spending and only bought bare necessities?
The macroeconomic implications of that are actually fascinating. It highlights the famous paradox of thrift.
Exactly. Does the system of wealth building actually require the vast majority of people to be, quote-unquote, foolish spenders in order for the disciplined few to amass their fortunes?
If every single person becomes a perfect saver, aggregate demand plummets, businesses fail, and the golden stream of income stops flowing for everyone.
Exactly. The system itself might be built on the endless, unchecked desires of the masses. But the rules for your personal financial tablet are shockingly simple. You just have to decide what role you're going to play in that system. Are you going to be the one endlessly buying the robes, or are you going to be the one financing the water wheels?